Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. The big Tekken 8 patch is here. We've had a bunch of Tekken patches already since launch, right? You know, they've covered various things, but this is sort of like the first really big, significant balance patch. And of course, we're going to go over all the major changes. Now, obviously, on top of just the balance stuff, we do have new little gimmicks and gigas. We got new options for the shop for you, more options for dress up, all that kind of stuff if you're looking to, you know, upgrade your character's appearances. So that's there as well. But the balance changes are the big deal. So naturally, as always, if you want the full patch list, I'll have a link for you in the video description. It's a pretty big one. And due to the fact it's a pretty big one, things like bug fixes or like very minor hit or hurt box changes, we're not going to bother because this video is already going to be long enough. So if you want every tiny little detail, please check the video description for the patch notes. But other than that, we're going to cover a lot of the major changes in the game. There's obviously a lot of character specific changes here, like Zafina. Hey, maybe not like the worst anymore, right? Azucena, woohoo! We'll see who the real Azucena fans are after this patch. Let's put it that way. And there's a lot of other characters got a lot of other interesting changes and some universal stuff as well. So let's start with the universal changes before the character specifics. So on the more universal change front, changes that are affecting every single character in the game. So we have basic throws. So your base throw is still like your base throw, right? You do it, you tech it or you don't. But your counter hit throw mechanic, or if you counter hit someone with a throw, the tech window is much smaller. It's still smaller, but it is larger than it was before. On a counter hit, a throw used to be a 10 frame window. Now it's a 14 frame window. So it's still hard, but it's not near impossible like it was before. Also, there's no confusion now if a throw hits as a counter hit because they gave it a new sound effect. And that sound effect sounds like a gun going off. So if you ever needed that audio cue, do not worry. You got it, because it's very loud. Now, also somewhat universally, characters that have throws that just lead directly into combos, like they'll spike you up or throw you up and then you can just kind of hit whatever after the fact, they've pretty much all been made universally slower. So, say here, Asuka, we're doing full crouch here, down, back, 1+2. So this is now 14 frames, so slower than it was before. You're going to find this basically is going to be the case for all the characters with throws at launch. So Law, another example here, 14 frames. Jack, Asuka, Xiaoyu, much the same here. Basically, everyone that has a throw that launches in the combo, they're going to be 14 frames, just a little bit slower. So another change, which is a universal one technically, although it's really meant to like kind of nerf people like Feng, Nina, and Dragunov, is the strong aerial tail spin. That's this guy right here. The kind of tail spin which, keeps the juggle going, but doesn't actually use up your tornado, right? Like, so, we can kind of use and abuse those multiple times per combo. So these are now effectively hard capped to 3 a combo. If you do any more past that, you're going to send the opponent flying and just out of combo reach. So up to 3, you're good to go. As you can see here, it'll maintain that property. But as soon as you add a 4th, you can see that last one just sent them flying way further than normal, right? So most characters can't use and abuse this technique like the chosen few that can. But I guess for the purpose of balance, since certain characters can really abuse it, that means 3 is what you get, and anything past that, easy juggles, easy relaunches in the middle of a combo, not so much anymore. So Asuka got some really good quality of life changes. One being mainly the Nano Augusto, that is her buff that you can either get normally or it's just always on while you're in heat mode. And it got pretty significantly buffed. So specifically forward, 1+2. That's like the big wind-up punch, right? So it does less damage on regular hit. So it used to do 42, and now it does 36. So that you would say is a nerf, but don't worry, it's made up for in other ways. So now, 1, if it connects at all, you just go right into a tornado state, they launch, and you can get whatever combo. So just land a hit, and then, you know, world's your oyster at that point. Basically, you just combo into whatever. You're going to get some pretty big damage. 68, and I dropped the combo. Like, you're going to get some pretty okay damage going on. So if you get the hit, good times, right? And if you get blocked, still good times. It is now way more advantage on block. It used to be +6 on block. It is now +11 on block. It's not a guard break or nothing, so nothing's guaranteed. But +11 on block means basically once they block, they can't even hope to like backdash and create any space. So at that point, you know, guess mid-low, they got to kind of groove on it, right? Because backdashing is not going to save them any way, shape, or form. So it's a monstrous amount of plus to B, and you can basically enforce your will at that point for a mix-up whatever you want to go for. So huge reward on hit, huge reward on block, a lot to love. The big buff move getting better. Also, let's talk destabilizer. This is her somewhat unique throw in that the initial part of this cannot be teched, unlike, say, a normal throw. Regular throws you can tech all day long, right? This, you can't. You always get pulled in. The idea, though, is it's basically guess mid or guess low, right? You have a mid follow-up, which is a heat engager, and a low follow-up, which just kind of splats them to the ground. And both these follow-ups are blockable, you know, because that's sort of the mix. The throw is guaranteed, it's the mix that's blockable. And they made the mix much better. So the punch, before if you block this, this was -9. Like, it wasn't punishable, but your turn is assuredly over. Now it's -3. So -3 is still negative, sure, but you can start working some stuff in there. You know, maybe you're going to start stepping offense if you know it's coming and it's linear. Maybe you're going to be cheeky and try to steal a turn back. You can do things with -3. And the kick is -14. That's not great. It's not great, but it used to be -18. That means if they block the low, they got a guaranteed launcher on you. Simple as that. -14 means, well, some characters might still get a launcher. Most of the cast can't. They'll get a, you know, decent little punish on you, but they're not launching you for like 70 damage or anything like that, right? So it basically removes a lot of the risk from this, because before the risk reward was kind of jacked up. Like, you're sort of risking more than the opponent is, right? All you get if you get hit was a base little hit, and they might get a full combo. So it was jacked risk reward, and now it's a little bit more fair. So Asuka also has like a lot of little bug fixes and all that kind of stuff, right? But these two changes themselves are really nice, like really good quality of life. So Azucena got hit pretty hard. We're not going to lie about this. She is feeling it, not the least of which just so many of her core moves got, well, kind of worse. So say something like stand 1-1. Automatically hits 20 damage, puts you into stance, big plus frames, really good move, right? And before it was -9 on block, which means, you know, you lost your turn, but no guaranteed punish. And now, -10 on block, which means a guaranteed punish. It won't be a big one. It'll be like a 1-2 or something like that for most of the casts. You'll eat a little bit, but still, guaranteed damage is always less preferable than having a chance to block after the fact, right? So now there's going to be guaranteed damage if they block 1-1. And 2-1. So 2-1, still good as well, 10 frame starter, right? Is now -7 on block. Used to be -3 on block. So -7 is much more in the you lost your turn, you gotta hold that kind of territory, right? Versus -3 is a bit more of a suggestion. Stuff like down forward 1-4, another major building block of the character. Now just does less damage. The second kick specifically used to do 17, now does 13. So the natural combo is just doing much less overall. Being able to delay the hits is much worse for the string overall as well. And I mentioned earlier, I don't want to go over every like hitbox, hurtbox issue, but they did change a lot of the hitbox, hurtbox stuff. So it's going to be a lot easier to sidestep, a lot easier to get out of the way, and she won't magically hit people behind her sometimes. So another big nerf. Keeping the nerf train going, down back 4, which is an excellent sniping low. And still is a good sniping low, but it now does less damage. It used to do 17, now does 13. So that's a all right, respectable chunk of damage kind of lost off the little snipey low, right? Now it's not all doom and gloom, because down back 3, it's another even quicker low, which puts her in the back turn stance so she can do a lot of her back turn gimmicks. This actually got a small damage buff. So this used to do 12 damage and now does 14. So 2 damage is 2 damage, sure, but well, 2 damage is 2 damage, just more damage. Can't argue against more damage, right? So maybe going for this, which is the faster low anyways, and back turn gimmicks might be the new wave for Azucena. I guess time will tell. But yeah, when you're quickly poking people with lows, this just does less damage, and now even does less damage than down back 3. And of course, hey, the showstopper, right? Run 3-2. This is like the move of the game. Like, since Tekken 8's launch, I can't think of a move overall that's been talked about more than Azucena Run 3-2. And it's already eaten nerf after nerf, and now it's eating another nerf. So, one is the damage. So it does 30 damage now. It used to do 37. So, 30 is not nothing, but, well, it's not 37 now, is it, right? So if you get hit, you'll still get a reward, but that reward will not taste as good as it did before. And of course, the showstopper here, Run 3-2, is now only +2 on block. Used to be +5 on block. Advantage frames are always better than no advantage frames, but +2 compared to +5 means you can't enforce your will as much after the fact. Say if the enemy wants to start sidestepping right after the fact, right? Well, now that you're just a few more playing frames negative, they can start taking steps to step, right? Like before +5 and you tried to step a 10 framer, you're probably getting bopped in the head. Now, like, there's certainly counterplay to stepping, obviously. Like there's a million ways to stop people from doing it, but +2 just isn't scary plus. Like it's nice, better than not, but it's certainly no +5. So less damage, less advantage on block. It is certainly not the overwhelming sledgehammer that it used to be, and sort of like the defining feature of the character. Now that said, Azucena still Azucena. She's got a lot of tools. She's got a lot of fun stuff to work with, but she's not, for lack of a more generous term, brain dead anymore, right? So people said, they're real fans of the character. We're going to find out who the real fans of the character are. Because if you were just playing Azucena simply for, the tier power, as it were, those people are probably going to find a different character. The people that stay behind, those were the real Azucena fans. So now Bryan got some interesting buffs to basically the heat state, his heat smash, and also his unique state, the Snake Eyes buff as well. So for the heat smash, I guess just to put it out there, one of the big ones, just does more damage. It now does 55 damage from 45, so flat out 10 more damage. I think that's a pretty sizable buff. Also on block. So on block, it is now +15 on block. Now, it was already very advantageous before. It already was +9. But, well, 15 is a bigger number than 9 now, isn't it, right? So, rest assured, +15, they block it. Go for whatever mix-up they're not really going to be able to stop you other than blocking correctly. Another change for Bryan here, when he's in heat, or he has Snake Eyes up, you go for 3+4 and 2, and if you do the charge version, it'll basically stop all defensive effects. So it cannot be reversaled, and you cannot power crush through it. So you can see Nina was in the beginning of her power crush frames, and you can still just totally destroy it. Now that said, it has to be the full charge version. If it's the regular tap version, it's not going to work. You'll still get armored through, but hey, better than nothing. Now, Bryan's unique string here in Snake Eyes. So forward, 2-1-2-3-2. So it's all a natural combo. It's really cool. Things about it. One, it now uses less heat than it used before. So you can use it more times than you could before. So that's handy, right? It's not bad. You can somewhat delay the third hit. Not by much. A very small amount, but you can delay it now. The third hit on block specifically is now only -2. Used to be -12, like you got punished. Now it's only barely negative, so that's an interesting little bit of it, I guess. Much the same here for the fourth hit, now -3. Used to be -15, so it's launch punishable. That's better than being launch punishable -3, I guess, right? So yeah, just better numbers on block, uses less heat, basically makes the move a little bit better all around, right? Not gigantic changes. Bryan, a lot of hitbox, hurtbox changes, mostly to his benefit. Like say hatchet kick wonkiness is now less easy to avoid, right? So yeah, it's basically about the heat mode and Snake Eyes, and they're all pretty much just strictly buffs. Okay, Devil Jin, it's all about that heat smash nerf. What am I talking about? Hey, that didn't connect. Now did it? No. So Devil Jin's ridiculous Heat Smash has been nerfed in several ways. One, the clear one, is just the range, right? Like, you whiff a button from, like, you know, the whole screen away and he could just tag you, because it's just that kind of silly move, right? Now the range is much less. He actually has to be somewhat near you. Also, the move is now much more reliable and easier to step out of the way of. Behold, even a bear can get out of the way now. And bears can't get out of the way of much. Let's call it for what it is, right? So, it's not easy. You still got to time it. Although for, like, quote-unquote normal characters, it is more easy, right? But yeah, so you can circumvent the Heat Smash now. As it stands, it was one of the most brain-dead moves in the game. And now it just doesn't hit from, like, full screen away. And if you smell it coming, you can actually sidestep. You know, what a concept, right? Getting out of the way of a move you know is coming. Who'd have thought? So yeah, Devil Jin players, we're on fraud watch. Let's put it that way. We're on fraud watch right now. If you actually like the character, hey, there's no real reason to switch over. But if this is what brought you to the table, you're probably looking for another job right now. So Dragunov, long time in coming, very much similar to Azucena. Drag is getting the nerf hammer in this patch. Will he still be a good character after this? Yeah, more than likely, right? But given the amount of nerfs and, you know, the severity of the nerfs, he's going to be feeling it. So just out of the gate, we got some damage nerfs, like stuff like 4 from the string 4/4. Just stand 4 by itself now does less damage. Used to do 15, now does 10. So either just neutral and combos or whatever, you're going to be doing less damage out of things that need stand 4 to work. Keeping the damage nerfs going. Down, forward, 3+4. This kind of, you know, big old mid, right? Big old tracking mid. So this now does 19 damage. Used to do 23. So in combos and all that kind of stuff, you're going to be doing less damage. Also kind of talked about in the universal section here, but since it creates the heavy spin state, like everyone else, now it's going to be more limited. So if you're using that for combos or whatever, you're not going to be able to use it as many times. Now there is some buffs here, like a 4-3, 1+2 here. This move on block specifically, it's less negative. It is now -3, used to be -6. They did call out specifically for this change that since so many lows are being affected, they want to make sure the mids are up to snuff. So now this being less negative on block is part of that. So down back 3+4, this is a pretty big one. So a lot of things are changing here. One, it just doesn't have the same range as it did before. It has less range. Now, depending on which ranges you hit at, if you're going for like a second one, that means it's not going to be as easy to follow up. And that's one layer of the nerf. So we do have just how advantages on hit, right? It is now +3 on hit. It used to be +7. So the reward for landing the hit besides the damage is now much less because you have much less advantage frames. Also, its animation on block has changed. So it's now like kind of like the failed block animation versus he would just complete the spin through. So now if you get blocked -31, you are getting launched. No if and or buts about it. So less range, less advantage frames on hit. You are definitely getting bopped if it gets blocked. These are some pretty severe nerfs for the moves, just kind of all around. Now that said, you know, it's a 20 frame, mostly unseeable low that does 23 damage. And you still get the knockdown on counter hit, so it's not like the end of the world or nothing, right? But definitely some not, just, you know, it's curtailed just a little bit. Hey, and similar to Azucena, the big run attacks. Those are getting nerfed for Dragunov just like it was for Azucena. So 1, damage. Now it does less damage. So if you're doing the regular version, it now does 22 damage. Used to do 25. If you're getting the blue spark version, the perfect timing version, that now does 26 damage. Used to do 30. So you're just getting less damage on hit, similar to Azucena. And another discrepancy on block. Still does chip, still advantage, right? So those traits are still there, but it is now less advantage on block. Used to be +6 on block. It is now +4 on block. So, like, you know, still advantage frames, but it's not necessarily as easy to enforce your will because simply you're not as advantaged, so they have more opportunity to either stick out a button or try to step or do something. Like, do something other than just play super passive. And hey, Dragunov, he's got like that really cool, unique wall throw kind of deal, right? So this is also being nerfed just a bit. So obviously, in context of combos, it'll scale with the damage, right? But the base damage used to be 36 for the entire move. It will now be 28. They say, you know, due to scaling, all that kind of stuff, basically you'll do, you know, basically 2 to 3 less points damage per combo. Because rarely will it just hit so raw that'll be mostly unscaled, right? But yeah, so just another little damage curtail for him. Keep the nerfs coming here. Full crouch, down forward 1, and specifically down forward 1-4. So the first hit has more recovery, although this doesn't necessarily change its frame advantage on block. And also, if it hits as a counter hit, no more free spins, no more free combos. You know, you'll get your hits, sure. You'll get your damage in, but it's not necessarily going to be a combo starter in and of itself anymore. Also, his tackle. So they changed tackle 1 specifically to give it less overall frame advantage, because there's a couple unintended scenarios where you could like get a free guaranteed hit on you. And now, well, the reward is the actual hit itself, and that's it. So, damage nerfs, options of nerfs, pressure nerfs, nerfs, right? Dragunov, I think, inarguably, is one of the best characters in the game, at least before this, right? So some of these nerfs are certainly justified. Is he still a good character after the fact? I would say so. Like, he might do a little less damage, he might get a little less options, but, like, he's still got a lot of options, and he still has a lot of ways to get good damage, right? So time will tell, I suppose. But yeah, Dragunov certainly got the hammer in the patch. Now for Feng. So Azucena and Dragunov got nerfed, right? You know, some of the best characters in the game. And Feng, I think most people would argue, is also one of the best characters in the game. And he is, I guess you could say, nerfed. Although I wouldn't say that the nerfs hurt that bad. Like, there's certainly nerfs, but, well, hey, let's go over it. So one of the nerfs here, you may recall he has, like, basically a super stomp when he's in his heat mode, right? And even if you don't connect with the stomp, it has a bit of a shockwave built into it. Like, the shockwave can actually connect. And the shockwave is actually unblockable as it stands as well. So the shockwave part of the move now, well, is basically not as big as it was before. And also, if it connects with the shockwave, you are now at less advantage. So right now, it's written anyways, the recovery frames inflicted on the opponent upon getting hit by the shockwave has been reduced by 3 frames. So before it would be plus 10, now plus 7. Now, various parry moves have been knocked up a bit here. So like standard 1+2, this is the punch parry. So if you catch people hitting with a punch at the right time, you get the parry, and then the parry, because it has, you know, so much advantage, guarantees the shoulder. And then you get a heat engager and just go from there, right? So for 1+2, they shortened the parry window. So it used to be pretty generous. So on frames 2 through 9, you could parry moves, right? And now it's frames 5 through 9. So the window is quite a bit smaller than it was before. Like, if you know people are going to hit buttons certain way after certain blocks, you can still get them, but it's just not as generous as it was before. Much the same here, while rising 1+2 also has a parry effect built into it as well. And, you know, in the same scenarios where you know something's coming, you can still do it. But they changed the window from frames 3 through 8 to activate the parry effect. It is now frames 5 through 8. So a lot of the parry effect windows are just getting lessened. Feng, we talked about the universal nerfs, how, you know, the strong aerial launchers can't do as many in the combo, right? Now also his specifically, on top of, you know, that specific nerf, his actually does less damage now. So if you do it raw, it'll do 16, used to do 20. So obviously in the course of a combo, depending on how many you do, you'll probably do, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you do, less damage overall in the combo. So you got to watch out for that. Also damage nerfs, forward 3 or back turn 3. They're basically the same move, right? So now, while it'll still retain, you know, its chip damage, its advantage on block, if you connect with the move, it'll now do 33 damage. It used to do 35, so it's not like the end of the world, but it'll just slightly take the edge off just a little bit. Feng, full crouch, 4-1. This guy here. One of the most amazing lows in the game, right? And this is a character that's not hurting for good lows either. So this has been changed up a bit. So they redistributed the damage. It's not necessarily nerf in and of itself. So first hit used to do 10. Second hit did 15. Now first hit does 13. Second hit does 10. So just a redistribution, that's okay. The big thing is now if it's blocked. So if it's blocked, they changed how the timing of the second hit connects. So basically now if you block it, right, because it doesn't have like animation where, you know, it's noticeable you block because it keeps attacking, right? But if you block it successfully and then go for like, you know, whatever while standing attack, the change just means that you won't get hit by the follow-up attack while you're trying to punish it, right? So you can now actually punish it without potentially getting bopped in the head, which is exactly what you want to look for. So that's actually really, really good. So still a good move, still basically an unseeable low and, you know, decent, respectable damage. But now it's not just as guaranteed death as it was before if you tried to challenge it with certain while standing moves. So definitely a nerf to a strong move, but the move remains strong. So like Dragunov, like Azucena, overall nerf? Absolutely. But is that a nerf enough to make me think he's still not top tier? No, I don't. I still think he's very much an incredibly strong character. Like, the nerfs aren't nothing, but they're not enough to change the fact that he's super, super good. Now, Jack got some really fun changes. Now, like many other characters, a lot of small hitbox changes, like while standing 4, hitbox got a little bit better, his Rage Art hitbox got a little bit better. That's great, that's great. But the big fun changes are all with Gamma Howl. That is the big flex stance. And there's some fun things happening here. Now, one, every time you Gamma Howl, it actually recovers your heat gauge just a little bit. So that's really fun. So the more you flex, the more you're literally rewarded for it. Also, while you're in heat mode, if you parry a move with flex, you get a lot more heat as well. So, you know, you're now really incentivized to do it. That's cool. Also, if you happen to be hurt, it now heals you. Like the flex parry, it heals you if you happen to be hurt. That's really cool. It doesn't like heal like a lot or anything, but, well, certainly more than nothing, right? As it's written in the patch notes, if you flex a move, you'll heal 10 health. So, like, it's not a lot or anything, but, you know, healing kind of rare in Tekken overall. So why not? Just the act of parrying anything with Gamma Howl is just much more rewarding. And that's just level 1. We actually gotten a pretty sizable actual real reward here. Gamma Howl 1. This is the move you do to stop people from, like, doing anything to avoid the actual cool moves, right? Like either stepping to avoid, you know, stance 2 or, you know, ducking or whatever. Because, you know, it's a big mid tracking move, right? Now it's -9 on block, which means, it used to be -10. It means it's no longer a guaranteed punish for blocking this. Before, you'd eat like whatever, you know, 10 frame jab combo, right? Like a 1-2 or whatever for most characters. Now, nothing's guaranteed. Like, it's -9, you still gotta block, you know, you still gotta be defensive about it, sure. But now they don't have guaranteed damage on you. So that's actually kind of big. Like, you need this move. It's not the move you want, but you need this move to stop people from trying to avoid all the other moves. So it being safe on block now is actually kind of a big deal. And also, like, hitbox changes and all that. Things like Stance 2 also have better hitboxes, right? A lot of changes like that in the game. And we got bug fixes, because of course there is, right? So certainly not wild changes like some of the other characters, but this is a fun change, right? Jack's a very solid character, so you obviously can't buff him too much. And the Howl, Gamma Howl, the stance is what makes him unique in Tekken 8. And, you know, incentivizing you pairing with it, like literally flexing on fools, as it were, I think is really fun. And, you know, one of the core building blocks of Stance 1, now, you know, not being guaranteed punish on block, is pretty big. So not huge changes, but very fun changes for sure. Now, moving on to June. June, a lot of doom and gloom going into the patch, and I would say the nerfs certainly hurt, but maybe not as deadly as some people thought. The big thing is this. So obviously many of her moves, because they're incredibly powerful, take some of her health as recoverable health, right? So it still does that, although now a portion of that recoverable health is actual true unrecoverable damage, as you can see here. So that means, one, it's going to be extra hard to get a perfect with her, right, if you're dealing true damage. And you can see here, if we add up several, that true damage, like, it's not nothing, right? Like, a lot of her recoverable health, all things equal, it's actually pretty easy to recover it, right? So now you do have to pay a little bit of a price. Like, you will be eating a little bit of true damage, and see if you do like multiples over the course of the match, it can add up, right? So the cost of her moves are certainly more expensive, I guess is the way to put it. They did say in the next patch coming out after this one, version 1.05, which is a whiles away just yet, there's going to be more changes for June with this in mind. But this is kind of the big one out of the gate. Also, specifically, her Heat Smash. So her Heat Smash, very strong in that it recovers health as well, right? And it will not recover as much health as before. And like some other, dumber Heat Smashes, let's call it for what it is, right? Like Devil Jin, it is now more easy to sidestep as well. As in, you can sidestep it versus near impossible to sidestep like before. So, besides this, it's a lot of like little hitbox, hurtbox changes, right? Doesn't necessarily bear going into every single one, although once again, patch notes in the video description if you want to look at it. So the real tale of June to be told, we have now, this core overall balance change of permanent damage, yes, but it's going to be kind of the next patch that decides where she's really going to be going. So kind of in wait and see mode overall. So the Bears. The Bears are at the heart and soul of Tekken. They're the real main characters of the franchise as far as I'm concerned. And we got some really good quality of life going on for here. Specifically Panda as well. Both Bears are going to benefit, but Panda is going to benefit more as, well, Panda has been a bit deficient compared to Kuma. So one of the things out of the gate, the Heat Smash. Heat Smash is going to do more damage. It's going to be doing 50 damage up from 44. And this is specifically for Panda. And also specifically for Panda, in Heat mode, Panda gets a unique shooting star attack. That's only for Panda, not for Kuma. And this also is getting a damage buff. So if it connects as it is, it'll be 40 damage now. And interestingly enough, can be done from the bear roll. So gives the bear roll a bit more mix-up power for Panda. Because now you can either go for, the usual stuff. You got a lot of options. You got the low, you got a mid, all that kind of stuff. Both are not terribly safe on block if they get blocked. But now you have a safe on block mid option, right? So even if you do happen to get blocked, you get a lot of chip damage. You're plus 12 in their face in the sit stance. And also, while we're here, the sit stance. So sit stance 1 now does more damage. And now does 15 damage. Used to do 10. So 50% more damage. So if you're in a situation where you have to be in their face in sit stance and very advantage on hit or block, now you got a low with a bit more sass on it, right? Especially because if you go for both lows, if they both connect, which not necessarily always going to happen all the time, right? The damage reward is going to be all the higher yet. Now this is a buff for both bears, and it's a pretty sizable buff. So the bears are amazing at inflicting chip damage. They got so many ways to do it, so many options to do it. Like, they're just really good at it overall. They are among the better characters, even if the bears themselves are not among the better characters. They're among the better characters at inflicting chip damage. And now they have a way to cash out. So in stance, you have forward and 1+2, which is the untechable stance throw. And now, if you connect with the untechable stance throw, it'll drain all recoverable life. So this is like a technique like Nina and Shaheen have, right? And now, if you get that, if you can manage to connect, you get to cash out big time. They're going to lose all that recoverable health. They can't get it back. Gone forever. And considering, the relative strength of such a technique on a character that can inflict much more chip damage than normal, that's pretty okay. It means you're going to want to fish for this move much more than you have before, because dealing permanent damage is a very big deal in this game. So most of the buffs are on the Panda end of things, but yeah, Bears doing pretty okay in this patch. Now, when it comes to Leroy, let's call it for what it is. This is Leroy's patch. He is the winner of this patch, no bones about it. So to start out with, the big thing here is one of his moves got a lot easier to use. So from his stance, he could sidestep, do 1+2, and this big punch series that did a lot of chip damage and was plus on block, right? Two really good things. And now he can just do it off any sidestep. He does not have to be in stance. He can just bust this out whenevs. So this now makes him a lot scarier because, like, block, go for it. Like, it doesn't have to hit. If it hits, great. But, you know, if I'm going to have some pretty severe plus frames at +7 from, you know, a range I can easily connect with you after the fact, and I'm getting like very sizable chip damage after the fact too, like I'm not going to be torn up if you keep blocking these, like to my benefit, really, right? So being able to do this whenever now off any sidestep is a very big deal. Plus on block, big chip, lots to love. Also lots to love is Heat Smash. Now it's going to do more damage. Used to do 45, now does 50. So hey, pretty okay. Also a really cool, very powerful thing. When you're in heat and, you know, he gets his enhanced 1+2 punches here, you know, the famed Ip Man punches, they change how, like, the distribution of heat works when you're doing the moves. Specifically, you actually technically regain heat when you activate the button press. So, like, only a smidge, but it means even if you're, like, literally about to run out, as we're about to see here, you can always get the full string off, no matter what. You're not going to run out in the heat in the middle, and that also means, no matter what, even if you only have a fraction of heat left, you're always able to do a heat dash cancel on the last hit, no matter what as well, even if you're technically just about to run out. So if you're about to run out of heat, you can always do that, which means in certain scenarios, you know, you're building up that chip damage here. That sidestep move also is powered up by heat, by the way, so it gets better in heat. You do more chip damage, a lot more chip. Like, look at this. You can't feel good about blocking that, right? So yeah, you get that, right? And now imagine this. You're going to get, like, say, eat 2 of those, and then you're going to eat this string. So you just took like 35% of your life in chip, and I still got the heat dash cancel the final hit, so I'm still plus in your face. So Leroy, like, ideally, the ideal was he was supposed to be good at chip damage, and I guess to a degree he was, but now he's going to be monstrous at it. Just, you know, freeing the one move to regular sidestep's a big deal, and the fact in heat, he's going to be inflicting a terrible amount of chip on everybody, because he can always end that with the heat dash cancel, guaranteed. Even if he has like 1 tick of heat left every single time, he can always cash out to its full effect. That's a very, very, very big deal. And we got a lot of strings here, like 1, 1, 1+2, 1+2, 1+2. They're changing the numbers on block on a lot of these, like 1, 1, 1+2 used to be punishable on block, is now -9. Down forward 1, 1+2. This used to be -6, I believe. Now -2. And this is going to be a lot of the cases, like a lot of his rapid fire punches. They're just going to be less negative across the board. They want to incentivize you going for them as often as you can. Things like his parry series. So if you parry, you now get recoverable gauge back, as in it heals you. Like, look at his bar, you can see that green glow, right? So he self-heals now off that. That's really good. Also, the actual parry attacks from them as well. The final hit does more damage. So if you get this, then you get the whole combo, you're going to do more damage overall. Also, if you happen to be near a wall, last hit now crumples on the wall. So you can get corner combos off it as well. So that's really cool. Back 3 does 27 damage now. It used to do 20. So just straight damage buff. It's also actually just slightly more plus on block. It's 1 frame more plus on block. And it used to have a counter hit effect, where if it hit, counter hit, you get the crumple, right? But now you get the crumple no matter what, on regular hit as well. So if you get any hit with this move, that means follow-ups are guaranteed. And, you know, he has heat engagers, all that kind of stuff, right? So the move does more damage, is more advantage on block, and if you hit with it at all, you get guaranteed damage. What's not to love? And of course, a lot of stuff, little hitbox or box changes. Like, say, specifically things like his cane attacks are harder to sidestep now. A lot of moves out of hermit stance are harder to the sidestep. They have better tracking. But yeah, just, it's win, 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 win after win with Leroy. Some pretty sizable buffs. I guess I'm stuttering over my words here because I like a lot of these changes. If you like Leroy at all, you got to be over the moon here. Leroy, you know, the first few patches of the games, they gave him like little nerfs, and he was already kind of definitely not the Tekken 7 incarnation at his prime. Let's put it that way, right? But now he's got some real stuff to work with. So Steve, we talked about it in the patch preview video, but very happy with the Steve changes. So, you know, there's little things like, hey, Heat Smash does more damage. Hey, that's not bad, right? You know, does 50 now, used to do 45, sure. But the big thing is everything Lionheart related. Lionheart just now actually works. The problem with Lionheart before, is even though you're supposed to have just, you know, massive advantage frames in a lot of situations that force you into the Lionheart stance, it was actually a reverse guessing game because a Power Crush beat all your options and you had to go through incredibly elaborate hoops to beat those, despite the fact, once again, it's supposed to be your turn, right? You're +8 before you're +7. But it's your turn. You're fairly significant advantage frames, and you're the one that has to guess, not the opponent, which is backwards and messed up. And now it works the way it should. So before I get my move off, I'm forcing Lionheart, the opponent goes for a Power Crush. Basically, all my options lose. And you know what? In most scenarios, 2 of the 3 options are still going to lose. However, Lionheart 1 will now beat a Power Crush. And that's all we ever needed for Steve. Like, to enforce the threat that Lionheart 1 kind of 100% beat everything you do, so therefore you kind of got to stay still. You can't just, you know, mash against it. And now you can't, because I'll actually beat a Power Crush, thank God. And now with the threat of that properly in place, okay, I'll block. It's -9, you lose your turn, not punishable, but I'll block. So now, okay, I'll block, wait it out, get my turn. And then you say, well, thanks for blocking, idiot. Get my Guard Crush in, get guaranteed damage in, right? Now the mix-up works properly. And also, because things are faster in a lot of situations where people would mash Rage Art, well, that means also Lionheart 1 will beat a Rage Art. So a lot of the problems where people would mash something with armor through the multi-layered mix-up, now it doesn't work, so they actually have to guess the mix-up. What a concept. You have mega advantage frames, and you're the one in charge, not the opponent. The way it should work, right? So there's some bug fixes. The ability to go into ducking into peekaboo stance immediately. That's gone, but that's fine. That, like, tech, which was a bug, only really came to prominence to make up for the fact that Lionheart was so jacked up that we needed a bug to take any kind of pressure back. So the bug going away now that the move works as intended, that's not too big of a deal in my opinion. Also, from Lionheart, the guard break actually got faster. Used to be about 20 frames, is now about 18 frames. So they state specifically you should be able to use it in combos. So I guess we'll have to figure out new combo routes. And little things like up forward 2, they gave it more range. So hey, why not? You know, it's a combo starter for him. It's a bounce. Steve, not normal compared to the other characters in terms of how launchers work. So that's a straight buff, right? The big buff, though, is just Lionheart work as intended. That was kind of always the problem. Now it works as it should. So you get a Lionheart related move off. You get your hit in. Now they got to guess. Great. Character work. Once again, working as intended. It frustrated me to no end that it didn't work how you think it should work on paper. Now it does. That is a huge win for Steve. He'll probably need more buffs in the future, but this is a good start. So Xiaoyu, we got some nerfs. Some things out of the gate here are the heat strings for 2-1-2. They're basically just doing ever so slightly less damage. 4-4-1-2 as well. Like the things that burn heat when you're doing the string, just slightly less damage. Does 20 damage on hit instead of 23. On block, people will now be left standing instead of crouching. And some small things as written by the patch notes where you can get some extra hits after the fact. That's been removed, basically a bug fix. Things like forward 3, the writing is a bit odd. The forward movement before the attack and the hitbox size have been increased primarily to stabilize behavior when used in aerial combos. As far as I can tell now, depending on where certain moves hit, that means forward 3 can like hit grounded and can relaunch people. I'm not a Xiaoyu player, so if you can expand upon that in the comment sections, I'd be very grateful. The wording on that's really something else, so I can't give you the full answer on that, I'm sorry. But it seems to be able to hit grounded people in certain situations where it couldn't before. More damage nerfs, up back 4. This is your Power Crush, now it does 20 damage. Used to do 26. All the other properties of the move are the same, but yeah, that is a damage nerf, unfortunately. Some nerfs to Hypnotist Stance. So while you're in Hypnotist Stance 2 in heat now takes more heat than it did before. It took 180 frames of heat before, now it does 240, so basically just drains the bar a bit more than it did. Hypnotist 3, that is the little low, is now 1 more frame negative on block. And negative 13 versus negative 12, that's like, you know, where a lot of magic happens for a lot of characters. A lot of characters have, you know, an 11 frame, a 13 frame, and a 15 frame while standing. So that means if it's a 13 frame on block now, that means people can get better quality punishes on you. So overall, I don't know. I'm no Xiaoyu player. It seems like small nerfs overall. The big things are Hypnotist. So Hypnotist 2 in heat, taking up a lot more heat than it currently does. That's certainly a nerf. Hypnotist 3 being, more punishable on block. Once people get used to that, it'll start stinging, I guess. But Xiaoyu's still kind of Xiaoyu in the end, at least going by the patch notes. And the last major character to talk about here is Zafina. And Zafina is eating very good in this patch. So let's start with 1-4, right? Basic string, and it puts you into your stance, your tarantula stance. So it went from +2 on hit to +22 on hit. So yeah, it is +20 more on hit. Significant, to say the least. Not the least, certain attacks out of Tarantula just got a lot better, but we'll get into that in a moment as well. Suffice it to say, when you're +22, you can basically enforce your options. Now, obviously, they're her stance options, right? So it's not necessarily the whole breadth of her move set, but +22 lets you work with a lot. Also, I do believe in like a very rare situation, Claudio could punish her before with his rage art for entering the stance, and nothing she could do could really get out of it. It's like a weird situation, but regardless, that's fixed now as well, I'm very sure. So this is going to be an ongoing theme. Her general pressure is going to be a lot better, and being +22 off, your 10 framer, jab punish, it's going to go a long way to helping that. Helping with that pressure, down 3, quick little low, right? It used to be +2 on hit. It is now +5 on hit. So you'll just have more advantage frames to work with. Also, if you want to commit to going into the Mantis stance, it's actually then +7 on hit. So like whatever mix-up options you want to go for Mantis stance, well, now have even more additional frames to work with. So a lot more plus frames on 1-4, a lot more plus frames on down 3. Run 1+2 got a lot better. So 1, as a running attack, it is now homing. So no stepping it. It is now a full circle attack. So you cannot sidestep it. Also, the startup, it is now just a bit faster. So if it hits on the first possible frame, it hits in 20 frame startup now. Used to be before first possible frame, 23 frames. So basically, just quicker overall. That's great. Naturally, as pretty much every running move, if it's blocked, it's going to be advantage on block. But now it's more advantage on block. It's +8. Used to be +7. And here's the really fun one. So run 1+2 forces you in the tarantula stance anyways, right? And as a run attack, if you go into down forward 1, you get a lot, 44 damage. All these other run attacks are getting like their damage nerfed, right? Like Azucena, like Dragunov. And here we are, she's getting 40 plus. And the thing about this, so tarantula stance down forward 1 got a lot better. And okay, let's just set the block all. Let's just block all. It used to be -7 on block. So what is it now? Oh, it's +6. So it went from you lost your turn to it's your turn. That's a pretty drastic change, all things told, right? So we talked like 1-4, he leaves you +22. That means if you want to enforce it, they have to block the down forward 1 after the fact. Now this is one of those Azazel moves, so it does do self damage, but then again, also is super plus on block and also inflicts a lot of chip damage. And as of the last patch, it does less self damage than it did before. And she already had like, I would say very good plus frame options before. And this is kind of the icing on top of the cake, giving a very strong plus chip damage option from Tarantula stance. And now that 1-4, lets you enforce it very easily. That's really strong. Also, it decreased the distance on pushback on block. So you can be closer and enforce more, mix up more pressure after the fact as well. So as far as just general pressure goes, Zafina is going to be doing a lot better. Everyone loves plus frames, right? 1-4 giving those big plus frames, down 3 giving more plus frames, stance down forward to +1. Like, I don't think she's going to be top tier or anything just yet, right? But these absolutely help and help big. And that's the breakdown of the big patch. Now, once again, if you want the full notes, please check the video description. I'll have those notes for you there. there's just so many small hitbox, hurtbox changes. Like this video would be like 2 hours if I went over every single small little detail. So these are the big bangers. These are the big options that really are changing up the game. And do keep in mind, they've already promised another significant balance patch in the near-ish future. So the characters that didn't get significant changes this patch, like say a Paul, will get that in the next patch. So look forward to that. But yeah, so Tekken keeping the updates going, keeping the game, you know, fresh and strong. Characters that have definitely dominated the early conversation, like Azucena and Dragunov, maybe less so now after this patch. We'll see. The meta will keep shifting because they keep, well, shifting things up. And, you know, we're waiting a year for that Street Fighter balance patch, right? So I like seeing some games getting some frequent updates. I know we're going to get that big patch for Street Fighter soon, but yeah, I don't know. That's always on my mind, right? So I like it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And other than that, that is the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. And go out and play some Tekken.
This is the love we can